Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, August the 20th. It is the 223rd day of the year. There are 143 days left in the year 2024. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, James Curtis Owens was my friend, my big brother, my teammate. James is a legend. James played the Jackie Robinson role at Auburn University and in the Southeastern Conference. He was the first at Auburn and in the states of Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. I was fortunate enough to be there with him through his successes in trying times, and over the course of 40-something years, we remained close. The shared experience of Southern athletic integration was our bond. I've been fortunate enough to produce a film, Quiet Courage, available on the Best Girl website. Next year, the book, Just Follow Me, will be available through the University of Kentucky Press and at our website, bestgirl.com. It is co-written by myself and Sam Hayes, former writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It's an awesome book, and we'll keep you posted. The reason I talk about James Owens this morning is our G-List guest today is Terry Henley. Terry Henley and James Owens were beyond teammates, even teammates for life. They were friends for life. They were the spine behind Auburn's 1972 team, the Amazons. The team posted a 10-1 record and finished number 5 in the country. Henley played collegiately at Auburn, where he was named first team All-SEC, second team All-American in 1972. For the 1972 season, he was a leading rusher in the SEC with a 94 yards average per game. He was elected to the Auburn 1970s All-Decade team. Terry played professionally for the Atlanta Falcons, the Birmingham Americans, the Washington Redskins, and New England Patriots. He's a senior VP at Palomar Insurance and has been with them since 1980. Terry is a teammate for life. I'll explain that when we get into our discussion. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. So let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars, Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace-Edwards. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So what's happening in your world?
Well, Tom, first I want to ask all of our viewers to please pray for my great-great-nephew, Lennox. Lennox is 10 years old, and little fella's in the hospital in Atlanta, in critical, actually. He suffers from a childhood illness. He was diagnosed about 4 years ago and has been in and out of hospitals quite a bit. And this time it seems to be a little bit more serious. So they've actually had to induce him in comatose state and had him on a ventilator, but he's making some progress, thank God. So I ask for continued prayers from everyone.
Okay, we'll definitely do that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's get Michael on. We'll come back to you, Barbara. Good morning.
Okay.
Walker, how are you, man?
Good morning, TG. Good morning, Barbara. My
Good morning.
prayers to your nephew.
Thank you.
I'm doing well, man. How you guys doing this morning?
I'm
Doing
good.
well. What's happening in your world?
You know, they all encourage us to get colonoscopies, as you get a certain age and what have you, and as part of maintenance and taking care of yourself. There's a doctor in Tampa. He's a gastroenterologist. His name is Dr. Ijwari Prasad. He has been put on probation because he was performing 2 colonoscopies on 2 patients in June 2023. And the report claims that Prasad began inserting the colonoscopy scope before the patient was fully sedated.
Oh man.
It goes on to say that the patient began yelling, but the doctor did not immediately stop the procedure, and that he failed to realize that the patient wasn't fully sedated due to the doctor's failure to wear his hearing aids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The surgical team couldn't communicate with Dr. Persaud either. The patient woke up in the middle of this procedure, and the staff couldn't communicate with him. It was a traumatic experience for the patient. And, you
Yes.
thought you had been sedated and what have you, but they didn't fully sedate you, didn't check. And he had to undergo this procedure. And on top of everything, the doctor didn't have his hearing aids in.
Oh,
Wow.
my.
Well, when you first mentioned a colonoscopy, I mean, that was enough right there.
Yeah, right.
If all goes well, that was
enough. But yeah, just the preparation part of that is.
I probably need to go get another one. I hadn't had one. You have to.
What is it they recommend, every 5 years or every 10 years?
Yes.
5 years?
Well, it depends. Sometimes every 5 years, they usually say every 5 years if they find like a little small polyp, regardless of how small it is, if they find one and it's benign, they still ask you to come in 5 years. If they don't find anything, then it's like 10 years or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but hopefully they I don't know the correct term, but hopefully they fully deaden everything before so that you don't wake up in the middle of it. Man, I used to have this dentist, and she didn't fully deaden the teeth, man, and she'd go to drilling, and I mean, she'd hit that, and I'd jump up out that chair.
Ooh.
And well, we deadened it, but you didn't deaden it enough.
Yeah, right.
I can feel the pain. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's interesting. It's kind of, I mean, things that are happening right now in the hospitals are just unbelievable. Here in Emory and in Atlanta, Georgia, there's a couple that's suing the Emory Hospital in Midtown Atlanta because Mr. Cluster, he had a brain bleed and he had to go in to have it looked at, and it was some swelling. So they removed about 4.7 inches by 5.9 inches of his skull in order to let the brain swell and start to heal. And after doing that, they said that they were going to have him come back after this heal, and they would put the skull back in place. Well, it took about, I guess you could say, maybe several months or so before he had to go back in. And when he went back in and they were going to go in and make sure everything was okay and then put the portion of his skull back that they had removed, they couldn't find it.
They couldn't find it?
Couldn't find it. Evidently, they have a place where they put these skulls from people, and they couldn't identify his skull because it wasn't properly marked or tagged, and it was there with other ones. So they told him that he was going to have to go back and come back after they manufactured a synthetic replacement for him. And he went back, got the replacement. They fixed him up and everything, and then they charged him $19,000 extra for doing a replacement skull.
Oh, no. No, that's not funny, but wow. Are you serious?
I'm absolutely serious.
Well, I'm sure they are suing the hospital for that. That's ridiculous. Wow. And this is Emory?
This was Emory at Midtown. As a matter of fact, his medical expenses total more than $146,000 according to the complaint. And that amount included more than $19,000 for the synthetic skull implant.
Wow.
So, in other words, they screw up, they lose your skull, but you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, that's not good. Not at all.
Exactly.
I mean,
Barbara,
it makes you not want to go to the hospital.
Right.
yeah, I don't like to go anywhere. Barbara, you got anything else?
I do, Tom. Several of us at our age try to get a nap in every afternoon if we can, especially during the summertime when it's hot and we've been outside and the heat's gotten to us. But according to NASA, there is a ideal length of time that you should take a nap. NASA's saying 26 minutes is the ideal time for a nap. They said that back in 1995, NASA found that pilots who slept for an average of 26 minutes experienced up to 54% increase in alertness and 34% in performance compared to the pilots who didn't take a nap. And they found that those who took a nap longer than that actually lost performance abilities after taking a nap. So I'm not so sure I agree with that, because to me, an hour is the perfect nap time, not 26 minutes. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I think the perfect amount of time is relative to how tired you are and how much you need that extra nap, So
Right.
I think it depends on the situation. Like you, Barbara, when I've been tired and I need to take a nap, an hour was enough to recharge me and get me
Yes,
going, at least 30 minutes that I don't feel like I lost anything from it. I
exactly.
gained.
26 minutes. I'm still trying to get comfortable in the bed.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I can nap in the recliner.
Right.
Um, I generally nap a little longer than 26 minutes.
Really? Okay.
I think
There
I
you
agree
go.
with Michael. You nap as long as you need to,
Right.
Yeah,
as long as you feel good about it.
yeah. Now,
Yeah.
what age was this, Barbara, that they say?
What age were the individuals? They
Did they
did this
say
on
if
NASA astronauts, so they didn't mention their age. They tested it on the astronauts. So
Yeah,
they could have been various ages, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah.
Very interesting.
I was just wondering. They say the president takes an afternoon nap and stuff. I was wondering, you know,
Yeah.
how long Joe Biden takes his nap.
I'm not sure. Didn't mention him in this article.
I know someone who needs to take a nap. Former
For
President
a
Trump
long
needs to take
time.
a nap.
Can we get him to sleep for a long time?
Margaret, let me go back. You mentioned praying for your nephew, and I also want to make sure that we say a prayer too for my other roommate, Mitzi Jackson.
Wow, wow.
He's
Okay.
having, he had some brain surgery,
Yes.
but he's doing pretty good. He says he's doing well, and I saw him a couple of weeks ago. I should see him in a couple of weeks, but say a prayer for Mitzi.
Will do. Most definitely.
My my roommate for the other 2 years. James was my big brother. Mitzi was my little brother.
Your little brother. Well, good.
Yeah. So we just keep him in our prayers.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else, Mitzi? I mean, Michael.
Yeah, I know Mitzi. You, Tom, it's kind of funny. It reminded me of yesterday. I was at this meeting and I introduced myself as Michael Walker, and this guy uh, from Gwinnett County, he says, "Oh, I know a Michael Walker. I can't wait until I tell him I'm guys look alike." And after that meeting, he showed me a picture of him saying, "Doesn't this look like you?" I said, "No, it doesn't." And
There's
he
no
tried to
resemblance,
preface it
Michael.
before. He said, now he's not as tight to you because I had on a suit. He said, he's not all together as you are. He rides a Harley and all this type of stuff. But take a look at it. Doesn't it look like you? I said, nope, not at all.
Not at all.
Oh man.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
So
but
yeah,
anyway, one other thing I wanted to mention, there are a lot of critics about DEI, and certain people can't help but to bring that up. And I found it interesting that they have now come up with a new acronym that is the critics of DEI, and it's called MEI. And what that stands for, according to them, is merit. that everything should be done on merit.
Mhm.
And so that's the new buzzword for hiring now is MEI versus DEI.
So that's merit, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think, I guess, as far as I'm concerned, it's always been
It's
that.
always been right. It always should have been based on merit anyway. Yes.
Well, all I'm gonna say is merit never worked for me. So, you
Right.
know, if it and basically when you look it up, it says this is an argument that they're trying to make like it's mutually exclusive, but it's not. DEI was there to enhance MEI by ensuring that a wider pool of talented people are considered
Right.
based on their merit. Okay. So that's why I always say merit never worked for me, because they wouldn't measure me on my merit. If so, I would not have had the issues I had. Okay. But if
Right.
it were not for DEI, I never would have had an opportunity for them to see what my merit was.
Absolutely
You know,
correct, Michael. I
so
saw a meme on social media. It says the new definition of DEI is Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. So,
that is hilarious. That's
Okay,
hilarious.
you guys got anything else? Um, okay, well, let's go and get Sean. She's got a minute for us, and we'll come back with our G-list guest. Sean.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. It's August 20th, and on this day in 1974, the Equal Educational Opportunities Act is enacted. The new law addressed the civil rights issues in education, barring states from discriminating against students based on gender, race, color, or nationality, and requiring public schools to provide for students who do not speak English. In many ways, the EEOA was an extension of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which banned racial discrimination in schools, as well as businesses, and outlawed the segregation of schools. Thanks to the EEOA, schools across the country now offer classes in languages other than English, in addition to teaching English to non-native speakers. The act also provided legal recourse for students facing discrimination in public schools, greatly bolstering the progress that was made during the civil rights era. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, you guys got anything else before we go to our G-list? All right, well, our G-list guest today is Mr. Terry Henley. Terry played collegiately at Auburn University, where he was named first team All-SEC and second team All-American in 1972. For the 72 season, he was the leading rusher in the SEC with a 94 yards average per game. He was elected to the 1970 All-Decades team. He played professionally for Atlanta, and Birmingham, Washington, and New England. He's a senior VP at Palomar Insurance and has been with them since 1980. Terry and I played together, had a lot of fun together, won a lot of games together. And so let's invite Terry Henley in and see what he's got to say. Good morning, Terry. How are you?
Good morning, TG. Barbara, good morning. And
good morning.
Michael, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So Terry, I'm going to start off with the 72 team, which they nicknamed the Amazings. Mm-hmm. I've heard you say that this was the highlight of your life. Is it still your highlight?
It is still front and center of my life. You know, it was amazing that Coach Jordan could get us all there at 1 o'clock to play. That's what was amazing to it. That's where they got their name.
Oh, so you had some characters, huh?
You had to get a couple of them out of the, let's say, pool hall.
One or two might have been behind bars earlier in the week.
Yeah, we had to get them off on probation here, you know, or work release or something. You know? But what a great bunch of guys. You know, somebody asked me, said, "Were you know, here you had played, you know, the first 2 years with Pat Sullivan in the backfield with him and everything." Terry Beasley standing next to you in the huddle, and et cetera. And people say, when you turn around in your senior year and you look in that huddle and you were you afraid of what you saw? I said, now what have I got to be afraid of? I got a quarterback put his jersey on backwards to warm up, and I got 6 players that have never been in an SEC football game in their life. Now what have I got to be worried about?
Very, very true. We went over to Mississippi State for that first game, and I was warming up with Randy, and Randy, I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I can't breathe, Thomas. I can't breathe." I said, "What's wrong?" I don't know. He had his jersey on backwards. Oh, but he played a good game. We had a great time. Terry, we call ourselves teammates for life. Can you talk about that for us for a little bit?
Well, the caption of Teammates for Life came from Roger Mitchell, who was a walk-on. I held, an honored walk-on because lots of people don't realize that Roger Mitchell made 2 of the biggest plays in Auburn history. And the first one being when Pat Sullivan won the Heisman Trophy at Georgia. He blocks an extra point to keep the game from being tied up. And then, of course, we go on to score 2 more touchdowns and win easily. And then he blocks the first extra point in the 17-16 ball game that allowed us to block the 2 kicks to win 17-16. So he was an honored player and all. And he phrased one day on a note card, Teammates for Life, wrote a note and signed it Teammates for Life. And that caption has stayed with us, but it is so true. It is so true for all of us that played on that team. When one of those teammates are sick, the whole team is there. When one of them needs help, the whole team is there. When one of them needs a prayer, the whole team is there. You cannot have a closer knit group of guys in what that 72 team produced.
I'm going to get you one more question, and I'm going to let Barbara and Michael come in. But talk about your relationship with James Owens.
Oh, God.
Let me say this, Terry. Gloria's on with us this morning, and she says hello to you. So,
oh, beautiful Gloria. And I love Gloria. And the fact I love Gloria is because my mother was named Gloria also.
Yeah.
My first encounter back when we played, you didn't have the internet and everything, so you really didn't know players from other high schools and things, except maybe you get the Birmingham News one day and see where they're an all county or an all state or whatever in there. And I knew nothing about James. I had never seen James on the recruiting trail, or if I had, I wasn't introduced to him. And so I went to the state playoffs in Anniston, and myself and Tony Kraft, and we were sitting in the stands watching Fairfield High School play Sachs High School. And I said, God, hey, look at this guy out there catching these punts, this number 44. And he had these big old arm pads on, and he had this big cage face mask. And he was the largest guy on the field. And he was back catching punts. And I said, look at him catch those punts and run up the field a little bit there during warm-ups. And I said, who in the world is that? And this guy punched me from the back and said, that's James Owens. He's going to Auburn. I almost changed my mind at that time. We were both running back. Because I said, my goodness, I had never seen anybody that big before. But listen, James Owens was, to me, they could never have broken the barrier, color barrier of athletes, unless they had seen in a way that made Auburn stand out from everyone else if they hadn't signed James Owens. James Owens was what a man. What a man. Besides his athletic prowess, he was such a man. He was a good Christian man, And I can sit here all morning and tell you stories, going seeing him in the hospital and his sickness. But most of all, James taught us how to act. He taught us how to act and how to learn, because most of us had all attended white schools. And when we came in with him being the first African American player, he taught us a lot of things. He taught us that color does not exist in athletics, and color does not exist in friendships. And he was a special man, very special.
He was. We, in the spring training, sometimes they would put you in different positions, and they put me at safety one time, and they handed that ball off to James, and that hole opened up, and I said, "Oh my God!" He was coming right at me. It's like, say, "Hey, Mike." So I had to make a business decision. I went for his ankle. Tripped him up.
The first time during winter workout, we used to go down in this padded room and we used to wrestle. We'd wrestle, and you'd have to fight for your life, you know. And I was 6 foot, 169 pounds. That's what I weighed. It came in. Well, here's James Owen, 215, 6'3", 6'3 and a half. I mean, nothing but man. And we in that room, that hot room, and I was a talker. I mean, I don't make no bones about it. I talked all the time. And they said, "Well, let's see who we're going to wrestle with a talker today." I said, "Well, give me the meanest one in here. I don't care. I'll want any one of them in here. Give me one." They said, "Come out here, James." You know, they blew that whistle, and the sound of that whistle had not cleared out of that room till James had me on my back. So I was laying there on that mat, and I was just laying there, and the coaches were hollering and said, "You're not trying to get up. You're not trying to get up, to fight to get up." I said, "No, I ain't going to waste my energy on that." I said, "You give me one of those kickers and I'll whoop their tail." I'll tell you this. I took James Owens home with me. I took James home to Oxford with me, and my mother loved James. My mother loved James Owen, and he went home with me and spent the night. And you know, the beds we used to sleep in, you had your headboard and footboard, and you had your railing on the side, each side, and then your slats in the middle, right? Yeah. Well, James, the next morning we got up, and the headboard and the footboard had kind of bent inward. The railings had bent. He was so heavy that we'd never had anybody that big sleep in the bed. He had bent the bed, and my mother had put a concrete block under the railings. From then on, they stayed there until we sold that house. Because James, we'd never had anybody that big in the bed before.
Barbara, you got a question?
I do. Terry, thank you so much for being with us and sharing all those stories with us. But I wanted to ask you about, I know you attend most of the Auburn games. Have you been to the scrimmage? Did you go to a scrimmage this year?
I didn't go the other day. I had another. I was called out on something else.
Okay. Well, I know you follow the team, and I want to just ask you your thoughts on what do you think of the team this year? I know we've got a lot of new players and some new coaches in some positions, and so what do you think about the team?
Well, I think you better get there early and get your program so you can familiarize yourself with the names. That's the first thing. And who used to be number 60 is not number 60 anymore, you know.
Right.
So I would suggest you get there early. You know, in football, they say a new coach makes his biggest move from the first year to the second year. He makes his biggest progress, you know. And I will tell you that when Hugh Freeze was hired, it wasn't 10 minutes after he was hired, I got a phone call from Archie Manning. And Archie Manning told me, he said, "Terry, you just hired yourself a great football coach. You didn't hire him. Auburn hired him a great football coach. And he said, the reason I can say that is because we didn't have an athletic director at Ole Miss. And the president came to me and asked me and another person, would we find him a head coach? He said, we found Hugh Freeze. He said, and I'm telling you, he is so smart. He just keeps going forward, just boom, boom, boom. And you got yourself a great coach. He said that. And I'll never forget that call because, last year everybody was, upset. Then they were happy, the Alabama game, it happened the way it happened and stuff like that. But the Alabama game showed you too that this man can put together a game plan. He can put together something to make something happen. And I think that's what he's trying to do. It's just if we can maintain it with the NIL.
Yes.
The NIL is the missing factor that wasn't 10 years ago, that you could make that increase from the first year to the second year. Now you got to deal with the NIL, which is good and it's bad if you go to the marketplace and get all good players.
Right.
That's one thing. But if you get some players from some small college that's not used to going up against somebody 325 pounds that stands 6'5" and can run faster than Harvey Glance.
Right.
It's a different league when you get a player out of one of those schools. So, you gotta look at what you're getting to. But I think he's going to do well. I'm sorry to be so long on that.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael.
Well, good morning, Terry. Thanks for being here with us. It's been very funny, and you're a hilarious guy. Our guests do not know the conversation we had prior to the show, and that was just hilarious. I want to switch up with you a little bit. You're in the insurance business, and so am I. And I was taking a look at some of the things that you're doing over there at Palmer Insurance, and I saw two things that caught my attention. One was insurance for egg farmers, and the other one was cosmetic surgery insurance. Could you kind of expound on what these products do and let us know what that means?
Yeah, we have the endorsement of the Egg Layers Association of America, so we insure more egg laying programs and farmers in the United States. And in Canada. We even go into Canada. It's a specialized program that we've had for many years, and we cover everything from their fires in their hen houses, you would say, to their tractors, to the delivery of their product, of the cargo, etc. We cover it from nuts to bolts. Okay. Now, Cosmetic Aesthetic Sure is a program that we have for cosmetic surgeons. Is anyone that has had cosmetic surgery, Tom, I won't mention your name, but, but anyway, if you're a cosmetic surgeon and you do have cosmetic surgery, when you go to a surgeon, you have to sign a release form that is elective surgery. That's elective surgery. So if you're injured and have to go to the hospital, your health insurance won't pay for it. Okay. If something goes wrong, the plastic surgeon is not at fault. Okay. And because you've signed away that form. At Palomar, we offer a program called the Aesthetic Sure that each patient who walks into a plastic surgeon can purchase insurance for that coverage of the procedure they're having. Now, the one that we abdominal surgery is liposuction, as some people refer to it as, and that is that's an invasive. It's very hard surgery on a body, and sometimes it causes a little more bleeding, we would say. And so You hope you don't have that, but if you do, it could cause some complications. And we have more we sell more of it for people who have that abdominal than say just an ear tuck or, just a nose job or your lips increased or whatever, stuff like that. But it's an outstanding program that we offer to not just one person, to every person. And if you go into a plastic surgeon, if he doesn't have it, he can call us and we can write it in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Very
That's
good
pretty
program.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking it was kind of like that, but I was just wanting to get the gist of how you insure it against somebody getting plastic surgery. Because we've seen those horror shows where somebody had plastic surgery and it went haywire and stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to wake up and your ear be over by your nose,
Right.
So but some people just have complications when they have surgery, and that's why you want to protect yourself and to purchase these policies. So I encourage everyone, if you're going to have plastic surgery, to certainly purchase that because it's not a big costly item.
Okay.
Tell
Thank
me a
you.
little more about the egg insurance. So is this like if the eggs crack?
Oh,
How does that
well,
work?
yeah. If the eggs crack, well, let's see. If the truck turns over and they crack, I guess that's going to be under the cargo coverage. But the biggest thing we usually have is collapse of roof because a lot of these egg layer programs are out in Iowa and just where they have snow drifts that crush the farmers' chicken houses. We'll keep calling them, and so the collapse of that, fire, etc. in those chicken houses. That those are the things that are pretty common and very costly to the farmer. Those are the biggest items that can hit you.
Okay, Barbara.
Yeah, Terry, I know you're from the Birmingham area, and of course, so am I. I live here in Hoover. I'm not sure if you're aware of the situation that happened at Hoover High School a couple of weeks ago with the two coaches that were, I think, asked to resign. As a former football player, what's your thoughts? I mean, this situation where several people thought that the coaches were a little bit too rough with the players or disrespected players, and others think that that's just part of the game. This is something the coaches have always done. It's for us in practice and stuff. So, talk about that situation and your thoughts on it.
Well, Barbara, I've made my voice heard, with a couple of the Hoover officials on this. You know what I mean? If I had been a parent, to one of these children that this happened to, I don't know if those two coaches would have made it to their car and
Right.
it could have, I don't care if they had a drag racing car and got away from me,
Mhm.
because that right there was so insulting to
Yes.
those children. It was there was no call for that.
Right.
That teaches you nothing in football. It teaches you nothing in football.
Right.
Coming over and yanking my helmet off, what is it going to teach you? How to fight when you get in a fight in a
Yeah.
ball game? They're going to kick you out of the ball game. So why
Right.
teach that? So
Right.
it's horrible that this took place. These two men, these thugs, I'm going
Right.
to call them men. I'll call them thugs, and if they want to see me, I'll see them anytime they want to talk to me. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I'll stand up a little more than those two kids would. Okay,
Yes.
and I think it was horrible. Now,
I agree.
people say, "Well, Terry, back when you played, a lot of that went on." I'm not going to totally disagree with that. But Coach Jordan held a firm hand on a lot of that. And it did happen one time at Auburn. When I was there. Coach Jordan was quickly to be right there, to stop it.
Right.
And I think the coach was disciplined for it in a way that Coach Jordan handled it. But you just can't do that.
Right.
What happened? What happened?
In Hoover High School,
Yeah.
Tom, they were running a drill. The little clip that I saw from somebody had a phone undoubtedly and filmed it, that the player was in some type of drill, and the coach didn't like it, and he went over and threw the guy on the ground and then grabbed his helmet and then straddled him on his face and like riding him up on his head, like you're on a saddle or something.
Right.
I mean, just horrible, you know. And to think about it, if I had to guess, this thing, Barbara, is not over. You know what I mean?
It's not. I agree.
Yeah, it's not over. These two guys, if I were them, they better find them a hole to go live in, because they're not going to be coaching football anymore. I'll bet you that. They won't be coaching anything, badminton or anything. Yeah, I mean, it's just horrible.
There was two coaches and one player.
It was two coaches were involved in the one. I only saw one player that it was involved with on this little film, but it was two coaches that were involved in the incident.
Okay.
The head coach, from what I saw. But you just can't do that. You can't do that. You cannot do that. That's not teaching you anything, nothing, and Tom, Coach Rendell one time got me by the edge of my jersey, you know what I mean? And to talk to me because I was walking away from him, as he's trying to talk to me, and he got me by the edge of my jersey and kind of pulled me back. But it wasn't a thing of getting me by my face mask or twisting my head or anything like that, But he wanted to talk to me, and I was walking away. I didn't want to talk to him. Yeah.
Coach Lorendo could talk to you, and that was worse than anything else that could happen.
And the thing about it, I wasn't afraid of him, and you weren't afraid of him. I wasn't afraid of him. I mean, he did, but nevertheless, that time he did pull my jersey a little closer to his body. I learned that I did not want to scuffle with him.
No, I don't think anybody wanted to scuffle with him.
Let me tell you one thing here, James. They give the Courage Award. Couldn't have a better name. You know what I mean? The Courage Award for James Owens. They give it every year, and I came up with that name. And I went to our athletic director at that time, Jay Jacobs. And I told Jay, we need to give an award in James's honor. At this time, James was sick. James was sick at this time. And he said, well, what do you want to name it? And I said, I want to name it the Courage Award. And that is given each and every year. And it couldn't be a better name for a good person like James. But I went in the hospital many times to see James. And I went into Auburn Hospital there in Opelika. And when I walked in, James was laying on his right side facing the door, and he was asleep. So I walk around the bed because Gloria's on the other side of the bed sitting in a chair. And I walk around the bed and I hug Gloria and we're talking. And James turns over and I'm standing beside the bed. I said, when you saw me, you thought you was in a safe place, didn't you? And he said, no, when I saw you, I thought I was in some place I didn't want to be. I said, you thought you'd gone to heaven, didn't you? He said, no, I thought I was in some other place.
Oh, man. Y'all were the best of friends. Can
I tell you another one about
yeah,
him? we went to Ole Miss. We were an underdog. We were an underdog every week except the Chattanooga game, so it wasn't anything different to us. And we never had any big score. We never scored but 2 times in the 20s. We scored 27 points against Georgia. Other than that, that's the most points we scored all year. Most of them were 19-13, 7-6, or whatever. And so, anyway, Ole Miss had these little old 2 white linebackers, and James would hit these guys, and I would be right behind him. And he would hit them, and I would hear him squeal when he would hit them. He would knock the wind out of them and knock them 10 yards backwards. I mean, he would just like following a freight train. I'm telling you. So later on, I saw one of the Ole Miss coaches a year or so after that, and they said, the only thing I can tell you is I hope Auburn never has another James Owens, because he like to kill every linebacker.
Oh man, we would run that same play over and over again. James leading, Terry running, and I was coming back to the hull. I think it was Tennessee or somebody, and the guy said, "Y'all ain't gonna run that same play again, are you?" I said, "Yeah, we're gonna run the same play."
I'm telling you. We drove 81 yards on the number 2 team in the country, Tennessee. We drove 81 yards in 14 plays. I carried the ball 12 of the 14, the last 10 in a row, the same play, and all the way down the field into the end zone. You know, now listen, if anybody was that stupid to think you could do that today, you know what I mean? But we ran the same play over and over again. You know, I'd be getting off the ground. I'd look over to Coach Rendo, and he'd give this little signal, and I get a huddle, and Tom would tell you, as Randy would say, "What do you call? What do you call?" I said, "He said run the same thing, the same thing." He's not changing his mind. No,
I remember once when we had one year we had like 3 or 4 guards, and so they decided they were going to let the guards run the plays in since we had extra guards, you know.
Yeah.
And so they would give the play to Farrier, and Bobby Lee would start running out on the field, and he'd get about halfway and he'd stop. We said, "Oh, hell, he
forget the play."
We'd be saying, "Come on, Bob, come on." He forgot to play.
Listen, Bob Farrier wasn't the smartest knife. I mean, the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'll assure you, he was not. But the only thing I'll tell you, when that ball was snapped, he was going after somebody.
Yeah, he was.
He was not very smart. I remember we would call a play in the huddle, and he'd say, "What I do? What I do?" It's the same play, Bob. It's the same play. You do the same thing you just did, okay?
Wow.
So you know, listen, Barbara, Michael, you can't make up this. You know, you can't make this up. I mean, these are true facts, and to think about it, we won 10 ball games.
Wow, amazing!
We beat the number 2 team in the country, beat the number 3 team in the country. We beat 4 top 10 teams. We beat the preseason national champs.
And you were the underdogs most of those games?
We were underdogs in every one of them.
Wow.
So the Chattanooga game, we were a 7-point favorite. I mean,
that's true. That was truly the amazing.
Was Prue on that team? Prue was on that team, wasn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were in the huddle to kick the extra point or something, and Prue steps in the huddle. He's the kicker, so he gets to call the play. And so we kicked it, and we were offsides or something, so we had to do it again. Prue said, "Look at here, okay, I'm dying for a cigarette, fellas. Y'all get it right this time." I need to have a cigarette.
I remember, Pruitt, he was funny. He was a funny guy. He came in the freshman class with us from Pisgah, Alabama, and he held every kicking record up there in Pisgah, Alabama. But they had to make him quit kicking extra points. They had to go for 2 all the time because he was kicking the ball over the fence, and those mountain people up there in Pisgah were stealing the ball. They didn't have enough money to buy any more football.
I see him from time to time.
Oh, what a great guy.
Barbara, Michael, you got anything else?
So
Terry, I want to ask you my football question here. What's your opinion of these super conferences and the SEC expanding and now bringing in Texas and Oklahoma? You know, I'm somewhat of a traditionalist, I guess, or maybe you can call an SEC snob. I liked it when we just, you know, back in the days when Auburn would play Georgia Tech and they would play Florida, you know, and all of that. And a lot of these rivalries are gone. Like this year, we don't have LSU on our schedule. Instead, we've got Oklahoma. So, you know, how do you feel about them bringing in Texas and Oklahoma, one thing, and then the schedules, all the rivalries being impacted?
Well, I don't think the conferences did this. I think TV did it. Okay. I think TV did it, money in TV. And so you got these conferences that says, listen, we're going to make our footprint bigger and we're going to draw more money. I mean, each school this year in the SEC gets $240 million. $240 million. That's their cut out of this SEC TV package. Wow. That's not, and see, I told them you just take 10% of that and use that as your NIL, and you don't want to make, you can solve a lot of problems. And then if a player wants to transfer, you make him hold out a year. If he transferred to another school, he's got to wait a year to play. If you do those two things, you'll solve the problem. You'll put the genie back in the bottle with the NIL. But the conferences, it's Michael, it's all because of money. It's all because of money and the footprint and everything that's happening. And these TVs are seeing what people want to see as more competitive games. They don't want to see Auburn playing Appalachia State. You know what I mean? They don't want to see them playing Jacksonville State, even though you might, because of the support of Jacksonville State. So they want to get away from that. They want to draw more audiences to their TV, more advertisement, etc. And so, do I like it? I don't mind playing Oklahoma again, you know. But then again, I hate to see we don't play Kentucky the way we used to. We don't get to play Florida like you mentioned, etc. Georgia Tech. Always a great game that we played over here in Grantfield and all. And so I miss those. I really do. But then again, we're going to see some exciting games in the SEC. And some of these conferences are not going to make it. They're going to have to line up here and get in line to form a playoff situation that you can really have 4 or 5 conferences, and then then the playoff comes out of those conferences. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly going to be the rich getting richer, because when you look at the SEC and the footprint that they have, you know, and now bringing in Texas and Oklahoma to the mix, it's going to be quite interesting. I saw an article that was done a few years ago about the top 25 most valuable university football programs, and in the top 10 at that time, about 6 of the top 10 were SEC school, you know, the blue blood, and the ones that weren't were Texas and Oklahoma, and now they're joining, and that left like Michigan and Ohio State that was not there. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a monopoly where we get to the point where we'll have more SEC schools playing for the national championship.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with you, because, listen, first of all, let me tell you something. Kids that go to schools, I'd rather play down here in the beautiful weather than in Michigan in snow, okay? I mean, that playing in the cold is tough. Okay, I don't get, and kids is much right. You look at all the players, the great players, they've come from the South. Okay, they've come from the South, and I just think the South is always going to produce players, and they're all going to always produce winners, and there's going to be multiple teams in those playoffs from the South before it's all over.
Let me get Barbara. You got one more?
I just want to, one thing is a comment. I love the way that you guys, the Amazings, your teammates for life, still get together and support each other, and you know your family, each of your families. And do you still have reunions? Do you get together like on an annual basis or a regular routine basis to sort of?
Well, Tom will tell you, we all try to get together, get one of the ball games we have a 10th club does that you can get over there. And then, of course, I send out emails if somebody is sick and stuff like that, my little twerky emails, you know. Somebody said, you don't use periods and commas and you don't capitalize letters. I said, I ain't got time for all that.
He's just trying to get the information out there, right?
Said, just as long as you can read it. But listen, Mac Crawford was not a teammate, but I've got a scheduled lunch meeting to go with Mac Crawford today, and he was one of our teammates at Auburn, but we get together. I mean, I talked to Harry Unger, I talked to Johnny Simmons. You know, I talked to, you know, Gloria. I call Gloria constantly, you know, she'll tell you. And then she came to Birmingham a few months ago. We had a little award thing here at Birmingham and had 10 ex-teammates were there. And those are great times. Those are great times. Barbara, and thank you for asking. Listen, let me tell you, I don't care what happens. It's just like Roger Mitchell said, we're teammates for life.
That's wonderful.
And we love each other. We really do. I don't know if anybody is jealous of somebody or anything. I think everybody is proud of everybody on that team and what they've done in life. And look how successful most of every one of them have been.
Right.
You know,
that's great.
I think it is very, very special. Coach Christian called me before he passed, and just out of the blue, we just caught up on a conversation. And he was my position coach, guys.
Right.
And so yeah, it was incredibly special. And that year, we were picked to only beat Mississippi State and Chattanooga, and that was they said that's all we'd win. We were picked to be number 114 out of 117 teams, and we ended up number 5. And
yeah,
that's amazing.
And I will tell you this: if we had played LSU 10 times, we'd have beat them 9.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, I told Bert Jones in the Senior Bowl, I had more arguments with him and playing with him in the Senior Bowl that he would always comment, "Well, we wore you out." You did. You threw 2 Hail Mary passes. You threw 2 Hail Mary passes as you were being knocked on your back. And it just happened. We had a 5'8" defensive back. It got out jumped. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. You really did a great job.
yeah, they were, and it was one of those games where they just got out in front of us, you know. So Terry, let me ask you this closing question here. We talk a lot about who we were, what our team was, and that, you know, the other teams always said at the end of the game that, well, the best team didn't win, but we always won.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Terry, do you think our team could play with those teams today?
Oh God, you know, I've had that asked, you know, that many people have asked me, said, did you play with anybody that could play today? In the offenses they run or the defenses they run? I always say that Terry Beasley and Pat Sullivan could play in these offenses all day long today. Now, do I think that a football coach could survive with a 6 foot, 184-pound running back running the ball 31 times a game could survive his coaching career? No, I do not. You know, I mean, we did what we had to do. We had a quarterback he only completed 26 passes all year, and so it just wasn't an option to throw the ball. Now, listen, when you got it in Tom's hands, it was fabulous watching him run down through there, but we had two of the best tight ends in the country, Dan Nugent, who played in Washington for 10 years, and we had Spivey, we had Sandy Cannon, we had Thomas, we had Mike Fuller. You had wide receivers galore, but I mean, Sandy Cannon would come in the huddle and say, "I'm wide open. They're not covering me. They're not even covering me." I said, "Where are you?" He said, 15 yards. I'm just out here. I'm on 10 and just turn in. I said, "Well, that's the problem. Randy can't throw it that far. You got to come in a bit." But Thomas would tell you, that was what it was. We just didn't have a good. Randy was a great manager of what he was given to handle. He was a great manager of it, and he'll tell you he just wasn't a great passer.
Right.
And I think when you talk about teammates, I even, the guys Joe and Tim Lacey and all the guys who were our managers. I'm Facebook friends with them. There's just a closeness there that you just don't have in all the other things that you do in life. It's absolutely wonderful. So, Terry, thank you so much, man. I'm going to close it out here.
It's been great, guys.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Barbara, good to see you, darling.
Good to see you.
You're
Good to see
beautiful as
you.
always, girl.
Thank you.
At age today.
Thank you so
I can't
much.
say that about you, but take care of you.
I prefer that you're not.
All right, guys.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Terry.
God bless you.
My closing comment for today, or as I see it, wonderful to have Terry on with us today. Those are great, great, great memories. I'm proud of what we were. I'm even more proud of who we are, teammates for life. There's a bond that was created by our coach, Coach Ralph Shug Jordan. He coached at Auburn for 25 years. He started coaching there before I was born. In his 21st year of coaching, I walked onto the team and earned a scholarship based on the freshman team and a spring training performance. In writing my book, Walk On, I interviewed Coach's son. As we parted company, we shook hands, and he left me with, quote, "You were one of his favorites." Did I know that? Some days I might have thought of it. I was the second Black athlete to play for him, and I know that he respected me, and I certainly respected him. I wish we could have maxed out our potential. That would have really, really been fun. But we did some good things together. We finished number 5, number 8, and number 9 during my time. More importantly, we integrated the football team. Coach Ralph Shug Jordan. Thank you, Coach. And that's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank our G-List guests. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. And that's it for this August the 20th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you've got an extra one, give one to someone else today. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.